Good morning, church family. Hope you're doing well today. It's time for the simple truth. Our passage today is coming out of Hebrews chapter 5, and our biblical theme is God hears and restores. Let's get right into this. Have you ever participated in, or maybe just watched, a baby food eating contest? Maybe that's not a question you're used to being asked. Have you ever seen that? The lucky contestants are given jars of baby food. And of course, the most disgusting is meat and vegetable combinations. Those are the ones that are chosen. There's no sweet bananas and pears here. Whoever can eat the most without throwing up wins. The contest is nauseating and therefore a great show. If you've never participated or watched one of those, I encourage you to maybe try that and you'll get a good laugh. But our passage today comes out of Hebrews 5:14. It says this: solid food is for those who are mature, who through training have the skill to recognize the difference between right and wrong. Hear that again, it's important words. Solid food is for those who are mature, who through training have the skill to recognize the difference between right and wrong. Hebrews 5:14. You wouldn't go on a date to a nice restaurant and order pureed mixed vegetables and beef. You're beyond that. In the same way, you could move on from the basics of Christianity and dive into deeper truths of what it means to follow Jesus. It's fascinating to see what's going on behind the scenes in the Bible. Here you'll find how Jesus broke many of society's rules. No wonder some people saw him as a troublemaker. You can also experience how your life is transformed when you embrace these next step truths. Let's think about these questions. How does your life reflect your true priorities? And how can you change them? Does being a Christ follower mean being compliant and boring? How do you hear God's voice? Begin the journey of diving deeper with God. Our whole message today that we're trying to get forth here is we should be beyond the baby food when it comes to our walk. And maybe you are. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir. You're there. You've been there for a while and you are taking a deep dive with God and you are trying to. Maybe that's why you're tuning into a video like this in the first place, is that you desire to grow your walk with God. Sometimes we can settle for the truths that we already know, the truths that we've already been a part of. I want to challenge you to go a little deeper. I want to challenge you to dive into maybe some other books. You're going to see our little extra challenge today is to maybe challenge yourself to pick up a Christian book or a topic maybe that deals with Christianity that you've never really either been interested in or maybe have had struggle with how you firm out your beliefs in that certain area. But I really want us to ask these types of questions. How do you hear God's voice? Is that something that even registers with you? Or do you just kind of push that to the side when you see that in scripture, when you hear people talking about that? The way that we move deeper and we move into a new space with Christ is when we allow that to happen. When we're able to be honest with ourselves and ask questions that may challenge us. When we're able to talk about topics that may be a little uncomfortable for us at times. It's in that transparency and that openness with God that we allow him to move us and shake us a little bit. And I want to go even a little deeper than that. Sometimes we have to be broken in certain areas of our lives in order to be healed again. Right? And what I mean by that is when Christ breaks our heart for things that maybe didn't break our heart before in a new way, we start to see his truth a little bit differently, maybe a little bit more clearly. And it's in those moments, those little baby steps toward Christ, when our depth in who we are as a disciple gets deeper and deeper, and we get closer and closer, therefore, with Christ. So again, think of these questions. How does your life reflect your true priorities? And how can you change them? The next one, does being a Christ follower mean being compliant and boring? And the next one, how do you hear God's voice? We are all called to move into a deeper, more mature relationship with Christ as we read in our Hebrews passage today. Talking with God today, think about these words as you pray. Talk to God about things that are tough to understand. Don't worry, many people see truths as confusing and complex. Ask God to help you deepen your understanding through deeper Bible study, a conversation with a trusted mentor, or personal research. take this step. What is it for you? What is it that you're not doing right now? Regardless of if you are a baby in your faith or if you have been doing this for many, many years, wherever you're at, take whatever that next step is. Maybe that next step for you needs to be spending more time in prayer. Maybe that step for you needs to be starting a book that's challenging for you to understand. Or maybe it's finding a book that you don't fully agree with the topic of something dealing with faith that you can wrestle with a little bit. Maybe it's adding more to your devotional time. You say, I don't know what it is and I don't want to script it for you. It's going to be dependent purely on where you're at and what God is kind of making you aware of in that moment. So pray for that, pray toward that specifically. And then finally, I've mentioned this a little earlier, but a little bit extra, if you want to go the extra mile today, in addition to your quiet time with God, dive into some deeper books on Christianity. These books wrestle with tough topics that often aren't discussed when the church gathers together. For some authors, you can look into Mike Yaconelli, David Nasser, Brennan Manning, or even C.S. Lewis. Those are just some examples. Maybe you're already diving into these. Great job. Take whatever that next step is for you that's going to push you to grow a little bit and make you a little bit deeper in your understanding of who you are. Remember, we are not called to settle. We are not called to, once we accept Christ into our life, to just be good for the rest of our life, to just be on cruise control. We are called to go deeper, because when we grow deeper, that means our message grows deeper to those that we interact with on a daily basis. My friends, that is the simple truth. Be blessed today. You are loved. You are enough. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.